listeners, to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet. I am your host this week. My name is Betsy, and I am here with the one, the only. He's my husband. He likes to watch movies with me. It's Trent.
Most of the time, I like watching movies with Betsy.
Sometimes you watch movies by yourself, too.
It's very rare, but I do it.
You do it on occasion. But this is not one of those occasions. We're watching a movie together today because that is what we do on this podcast. And we have made it through 6 decades, all the way back from 1966, every 10 years. And we have finally made it to the end of our decade series, present day, the year 2026. So, Trent, the movie we are covering today comes as no surprise to anybody because it is probably the biggest movie of the summer, the biggest movie of the year to date. It's gonna make just a shit ton of money in the theater.
Yeah, and to be honest, we probably locked this in as the movie for 2026 last year.
Oh yeah, when we were talking about what are we gonna do next year for the Decade series, it seemed obvious that we should go and cover The Odyssey. So, Trent, this is the first Christopher Nolan movie since the last Christopher Nolan movie we covered in a decade series. That was 2023's Oppenheimer. We have pretty much seen his entire filmography with very rare exception. But what do you know about The Odyssey?
Well, it's about Homer's Odyssey, of course. And I'm going to be kind of the odd man out here because I know very little about Homer's Odyssey, save for a couple of things. Number one, I have watched many times and enjoy Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
You already have a version of the Odyssey that you are well versed in.
I am, and save for that movie, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that is very explicitly trying to be inspired by or be a ripoff of Homer's Odyssey. But I'm the odd man out here because Betsy, you're the one here who is the real expert on this podcast because, correct me if I am wrong, you actually have a degree in this shit.
I was a classics major in college. Yes, sir, I was. And oddly enough, Trent, I don't actually know if I have read The Odyssey. Now, I will preface this by saying I know I have read part of The Odyssey because I translated it from the original Greek. That is another nerdy thing that I did when I was in college.
Of course. And the other part of my history with this is in high school, I cannot remember for the life of me what section I was in, what subject I was in. But around the time when Oh Brother came out, I had some kind of section in high school where I read at least part of the Odyssey. What that part was, why we were reading it, and I even think that we ended up seeing the movie in class at one point. I really can't remember because that was 26 years ago.
But I think it's one of those stories that even if you haven't sat down to read the entire book, the entire poem, it has existed for so long and been adapted so many times that it is sort of inescapable that you realize, oh, I know this part of the Odyssey,
Sure.
or I know that thing about the Odyssey.
Sure, and I saw some video talking about the movie and tangentially related to the actual original text. The conversation was about there's really only a very small number of stories you can really tell. When you really break it down, The Odyssey is one of the original of those number of stories. This one is about going home. And if I am correct in my, summation of what I've heard about the movie and about the story itself, Odysseus is the Matt Damon character. He was off fighting the Trojan War, and he and his men are coming home.
Trying, Trent. They are trying to get home.
Sure, it is their Odyssey back home. And that word comes from this poem. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. Odysseus, hence Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. So I am sure there's going to be a whole lot of things here that they're going to cover in these 3 hours that I'm going to say, oh God, I see what they're doing from this other movie. They're adapting it from this. So there's going to be some universality that they're really covering here that I'm going to just pick out from a whole lot of things. And we'll talk about that after we see it. And to be honest, I'm a little intimidated by the Odyssey, not only because, hey, it's a 3-hour movie, it's a Nolan movie, there's a lot of big expectations when it comes to any of his movies, really. But I'm apprehensive because us two schmucks from South Dakota really have no justification for really being learned about the subject. I'm going to be relying on you mostly when it comes to this stuff.
But I don't think you're going to need to rely on me because Christopher Nolan has a reputation for making these difficult to understand topics accessible to the masses. And
then again, we also haven't seen Tenet yet.
Yeah, but that's not one of these movies. When he has adapted something complex, he makes it in a way that is approachable for the general public.
Sure. Movies like Interstellar don't really get popular if the audience goes to see them and the audience feels dumb for not understanding it.
Right. So the thing that I'm taking away is Christopher Nolan has made a movie that is actually really well told. He has modernized it in a way. He's basing it on a text that is actually a little bit more of a modern interpretation. The woman who wrote the book that he primarily is using as the reference, her translation is very modern. It uses modern language in a way you're not going to be expecting. It's going to feel anachronistic for a movie like The Odyssey. It's going to feel weird for ancient Greece.
Which, I mean, at this point in our history, this is the only way that you can really do it. The last person to really try to go for old school authenticity, as it were, was fucking Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, Mel Gibson making a movie in
Aramaic.
Aramaic.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Sure.
We didn't do it in ancient Greek, though, Trent. We could have. They could have made this movie in original Greek because there is a difference between ancient Greek and modern Greek. The ancient Greek is what I learned when I was in college. But back to the movie. The other thing we know about this is everyone in the goddamn world is in this movie. He has got every actor under the sun showing up in his movie. We've got both returning champions from the Nolan universe. We also have a lot of new faces that have not been in a Nolan movie before.
Yeah. And that's just kind of his thing. He likes to reuse actors, and a lot of directors are like this as well. This is not just a Christopher Nolan thing. But what I'm really hoping is that it isn't going to be a distraction for me, not really knowing what the hell I'm going to be looking at here. Yes, Matt Damon is a very popular actor. I have seen him in a whole lot of different movies. Can I buy him as this guy? Or are all the people in the movie just going to be a constant distraction? I guess there's only one way to find out.
I suppose that's right, Trent. So why don't we find out? We are going to go watch for 2026 Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and we will be right back. And we're back from our own Odyssey, all the way from the theater, all 3+ hours with all of the ads and everything we had to sit through before the movie started. A joke no one covering the Odyssey has made in the history of podcasting. But Trent, that was Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. What did you think of it?
Man, this guy can kind of do no wrong, can he?
I mean, he's capable of it, I have to imagine. I just don't think we've really seen it yet.
No. And honestly, Betsy, coming out of that, I don't know if I would have trusted any other film director to really take this on. I also don't think that any crew or any group of actors would trust a director other than Christopher Nolan to undertake this entire process.
To do it at the scope of the story that it's originating from.
To do it right.
To do it big, to do it semi-accurately, I should say, because obviously he is taking some creative choices that would be inconsistent to the original text. But they're few and far between, and that's mostly just to make it more accessible to a general audience.
And that's not what we are going to be talking about today.
Who gives a fuck?
There's plenty of people out there who say that this person didn't appear in the Odyssey. Why is this movie so fucking woke?
Oh, there's so many people that are like,
fuck up.
There's so many people that are saying, these people are supposed to be Greek. Yeah. You know, and Jesus was black. I don't know what to tell you guys.
There's so many things about this. Also, the Odyssey is fucking fake. Okay?
Yeah, it is a story. It is an epic poem that dates back so far that none of your own ancestors were around to even tell you about it. It was so many generations ago. Why are you getting hung up on historical accuracy? I'm going to tell you right now, the first picture that was released of Matt Damon on the set of filming, people were already like, well, that's the wrong helmet. The helmet that he wears in the movie is not historically accurate. But guess what? It looks fucking cool. So who cares? It is a movie. We are making a big, epic story, and it works.
I fully expect that these same people who are complaining about the Odyssey didn't have shit to say about the movie 300.
Though I will tell you, as somebody who also just recently watched 300, it's weirdly historically accurate to that text too.
Disturbingly accurate. You would know, Betsy.
There is stuff in there. Again, another piece of media that I translated from Greek because that's who I am as a person.
Okay. Now, I want to stay on this point here, Betsy. I'm going to take over the show now because you have a very unique perspective. I want to hear from you. Did you know what was going to happen in the story as it is being doled out to the audience? Do you have an intimate knowledge of this thing, or were you just along for the ride?
As I said in the introduction, I know that I translated the earliest part of the Odyssey. I remembered certain stories, like I know we translated the bit about the Cyclops, but I don't think we did the entire thing. And so I know certain names. I know just based on, again, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Versions of the story. But no, I didn't know which sequence would come next, who each person was, if this actually happens in the order that it plays out in the movie. I'm sure if I was more intimately familiar, I too would be like, well, that's not quite how they did it. But I also am such a film lover that I don't care.
You just let the film wash over you like everybody else does.
I think there are certain movies when I'm watching them that will drive me insane. Like there's just that one detail that it's like, okay, that's just fucking stupid and you've taken it too far. Well, even that, I can just get over a lot of it. There might be one thing I get hung up on, but I let it go. In this one, there really wasn't anything that took me out of the movie except every time Tom Holland said, Dad, and someone used the word daddy. But even that, I read something about the script, the text that he was adapting from. There is a certain person, Emily Wilson is her name, and she took the original story of the Odyssey and did another translation of it. And she basically took things that contextually sound like they wouldn't make sense, but if you read it, the informality of how they're referring to a parent, this is more accurate for him to say my dad than my father. In the context of the original text, it made sense when you're looking at the overall history of the time and place it was written, of the culture. If you take into account all of the other things and not just the words on the page, it's not that weird for him to say, my dad is coming back, even though it was really weird to see it in the first trailer.
I suppose, but also in context, as you're talking about, when he is talking with his mother, he's going to refer to his dad as dad, but he might call him his father to the public, to people outside of the main circle here. Now, I don't really take any kind of umbrage with the language here, except at the very end when he, as the beggar, is asking for food from those two assholes, and the asshole says, fuck you, twice. Now, I am sure that there were certain affectations that they would say back in the day other than fuck you. And I think that was the one instance in the entire 3-hour runtime that I was taken out of it just a little bit, but I let it go. I didn't care that much. The rest of it, though, I even think that you could have afforded to go a little bit more authentic and throw in some of the old language from the original text along with the new translated stuff. It might have felt a little bit out of place, but you could have assigned some of that to some characters, but not others.
I think that would have felt weird It would have been weird if you had some people talking one way and everybody else talking, quote, normally.
I mean, in context of the movie, you could have had all those goddesses start talking in that way. You could have had the dead people who were rising from the shades. You could have had them talk like that. I don't know. There's ways to do it, and I don't think it would have been as out of place. But as far as, authenticity's sake, again, we go back to the idea that this is not a real event. This is not historically accurate because this is not history. Yes, there were battles back in the day. Yes, Greece had an army. Yes, Sparta was a thing. And in the writing of the original text, any writer takes things from real life and adapts it into something fictional.
As they say, Trent, when the fiction is better, print the fiction.
They do say that. Anybody who is coming to the Odyssey for complete 100% authenticity in this year 2026, I'm just sorry for you.
I think if you made this movie completely accurately, it would be boring as sin to anybody who didn't study ancient Greek.
Absolutely. And you did study ancient Greek, and even you had a good time, I imagine, because I haven't really heard your take on this yet.
Because I am a movie fan. I can separate the two things. As I said, this was like 20 years ago for me. I have not read this material. I have not studied this material in recent memory. Every once in a while, I think I should get that Greek book out and see if I remember any of it.
Did you get that twinge that you had when you were back in college and the stuff really turned you on?
Anytime there was somebody, like they said a name or something that was familiar, I perked up a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know it so intimately that I could predict what was going to happen next. I knew some of the things. Obviously, the Cyclops is going to eat people, and they're going to destroy him somehow. I knew Cersei was a witch. I did not know she was going to turn all those guys into pigs. We had a Spirited Away moment where they just gorge themselves and then they're pigs.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect that reference today.
It's what I thought of.
Okay. I keep on mentioning that you went to college for this. You majored in classics. You have a degree in classics. And I bring that up just because it is a unique perspective here, but it's not like you are using this degree in your daily life. You're not teaching this stuff. You're not looking at it all the time. It's just something that you were interested in. You chose that as your major and you got a degree in it. Like a lot of people get degrees in bullshit.
It was kind of one of those things where I got to my junior year of college and they said, okay, sweetie, you have to declare a major or you can't keep taking classes. And it just happened that I had already taken all of these other classes that applied.
Because
it was what interested.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what interested me, and I've always been interested. I watched Indiana Jones one too many times as a kid where they spend time digging around in Egypt, and I thought that was cool. And then I went to college and I got to learn about Greece and Rome and Mesopotamia. I'm a nerd. I just think that stuff, the cradle of civilization, is fascinating to me.
It is. And that's why this story is so fucking universal.
And the fact that it's still relevant, that it can be relevant, and that people can still find it interesting in 2026. Joe Schmo off the street is interested in Greek mythology and Greek storytelling because Christopher Nolan means more to him than a fucking history book. I don't care how you got here.
But you know what?
Got here.
You know what, Betsy? We've had these conversations off mic about the fact that we don't have these Greek philosophers anymore. We don't have deep thinkers out there fascinating the masses with their thoughts. Our philosophers are the filmmakers that entertain us. And yes, I was fully entertained by this movie. I will absolutely watch this movie again. But did it have me feeling a whole lot of deep thoughts? A couple of times.
At the end of the movie, they basically tell you Odysseus doesn't want to go home, and deep down, it's because he is feeling like he fucked up. He won a war through a bunch of trickery and fucking with the will of the gods.
Yeah.
And he now has to live with that shame and all the bad shit that they did. And when everything keeps going wrong, he's like, well, yeah, because I kind of fucked up and everybody around me fucked up too.
Yeah, and instead of him coming back as a conquering king, he is coming back with his tail between his legs. In his mind, he's a failure because all of his men who followed him into battle all died. All of them died.
Yeah, because they had a 10-year campaign to win the war at Troy, and nothing was working, and he won through a trick.
Yeah.
He broke the rules by building the horse, by hiding inside, by sneaking in there in the dead of night on a moonless night. He broke every rule of fair play, and he knows it. And everything that happens as a result is his fault.
And at that moment there, he can just see all of the different dominoes surrounding him start to fall, starting with the lies that he told Elliot Page's character outside of the horse. His character is sacrificing himself to these men who are coming to accept this gift.
But he doesn't even understand why. He's never told why.
And even when they go to Hades and he is confronted by this character, he's still trying to justify it, saying, "You alone won us the war. Your sacrifice allowed us to get inside and win the war. But at what cost?"
Yeah, all these voices of the dead are warning him like, dude, you have been fucking this up and you're continuing to fuck this up. And we're even going to tell you the future. If you do this, this is what will happen. If you do this, this other thing will happen.
Right.
No matter what, you will get home and everyone in your crew is gonna die.
Yeah.
You cannot protect them. You need to give this up.
And that's why at the end of the movie, he decides, I'm done. I'm not going to come home and rule over this place. I'm not going to raise an army and take over the entire land. No. I'm fucking done. I'm taking my wife and we're peacing out. I am allowing my son, my heir, to rule in my stead. Which, if a whole lot of other people from the older generations in 2026 would get that through their fucking head, maybe we could have a better... Oh, yeah.
You mean
Don't get me fucking started.
Sometimes the older generation needs to just learn when to walk away.
Needs to get the fuck out of here.
Get on a boat, float away to the west, honor the dead. Be
However
gone.
you want to do it, just get the fuck out of here.
Self-exile.
That was the other deep thought that got to me there. The older generations just need to go away sometimes.
And look at everything that happens when he comes back. Like, he knows he's not going to have a hero's welcome. He doesn't want a hero's welcome. And it takes killing half the people in that room to prove a point that he is the king here. He is in charge. But they will not give up on, like, getting him the fuck out of here. Somebody else needs to take over.
And it doesn't matter that his son, the Tom Holland character, it doesn't matter that he isn't ready to rule. It doesn't matter. It's his time. He needs to take up the throne and rule in however he wants to.
Well, that's the problem. If you never let him try, how is he ever going to learn it?
Exactly.
You have spent 20 years. I'm going to blame his mom in this moment a little bit, because they have spent almost 20 years saying he's coming back, he's coming back, he's coming back. In which case, this kid has never prepared to rule. He is being told that he's not going to because his dad's going to come back.
Of course. And why would you doubt him? But after a certain time, the entire kingdom is fucking languishing because of your stubbornness, because of your faith, whatever it happens to be. You need to realize here, it doesn't fucking matter if it's him, your son, or some schmuck in that fucking room. Somebody's got to lead.
Sometimes faith becomes stubbornness. And that's kind of where we end up in here. And it goes right back to what you were just saying. People who are like, no, I have to serve. I have to serve. No, you fucking don't. You could just leave sometimes. But that is a very big conversation we don't have time for in this episode. So right now, I'm going to cut us to a break. We're going to take a minute to calm down.
We could keep on talking about this.
We could talk about this in particular at length. Instead, we are going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we will come back and talk a lot more about the Odyssey. Are your ears tired of the same boring podcasts? Is the wait until the next episode of Never Seen It too much to bear? Then why not try Never Seen It premium content? The exclusive episodes on patreon.com/neverseenitpod take care of those hard-to-clean areas in your mind. It can handle dramas, romance, horror, and so much more. Use Never Seen It premium content during dental work, while skydiving, or even in your car. It's even gluten-free. So what are you waiting for? Try patreon.com/neverseenitpod today. So I'm going to pick a completely arbitrary topic to start here, Trent, because there's many details about this movie I enjoy. But I'm going to start with the score by Ludwig Göransson. Now, people are already saying the man has won 2 Oscars in like 3 years, and he's probably going to win a 3rd one for this movie. What did you think of the score in the Odyssey?
I will talk about that as it relates to my favorite scene in the entire movie. That, of course, being, I guess, the sacking of Troy. When everybody is emerging from the horse in the middle of the night, it's very quiet. You barely even hear them coming out of the horse. You barely hear them taking down some of the guards as they get weapons. You can't really hear anything. But ever so slightly, you start hearing the music start to kind of well up around all the characters. And as they're making progress towards getting to the door, it starts getting louder, it starts getting faster, it starts getting more percussive. And at the apex of everything here is when they open up the door and the battle is just fucking going. It's the escalation of tension, is the escalation of action that is happening in this moment that you would reserve a score like this, you would reserve a moment like this for an action movie like the Odyssey is. It is an action movie at its heart. So that right there alone, I think, would win him the Oscar. But it's all of the extra stuff that he is throwing in here as far as like, even when the very tiny moments where Matt Damon is holding his bow and he kind of plucks the string to get the attention of his prey or the enemies that he's going after, because it's not sporting in his mind, I guess.
He gives him a fair shot by making a sound first.
So him just doing that is punctuated with a musical note. And what I found fascinating, and I told you before we sat down here, what I found fascinating in the trivia was that the composer didn't use a traditional orchestra. There were no string instruments. There were no brass instruments in his the normal instruments that you would think about now in his repertoire. All of the instruments that he used were era-appropriate instruments from ancient Greek.
Imagine going up to a director and saying, I've got this idea. I want to use ancient Greek instrumentation for the entire score. And the director is of sound mind enough to say, go for it.
I trust you in order to get this done. This is what I want. Make it happen. And he did.
And it really works. And it is a unique way to score this movie. That scene you talked about, sacking Troy, when that tempo keeps increasing and it's building and going faster and faster. I was holding my breath. I was getting so jacked up watching this movie, waiting to see what's going to happen next. And there's other times in the movie where the eeriness really comes into play because these instruments are so foreign to our ears.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is. When they go to Hades, I leaned over to you and I was like, there's something very John Carpenter about this part of the movie.
Yeah, all of the sounds that are in the score are very otherworldly.
Yeah.
And you can't really describe it other than that.
You think, is this electronic? What is this? My ear can't identify it. All I know is I'm getting this really eerie, creepy feeling
it's
inside.
Uneasy, yeah.
And it so plays up every scene perfectly. But I love that you found that out because I don't think I knew that before we watched the movie, that these are foreign instruments to our ears. And it's just another layer of, wow, you really thought about this, huh? Because you could have just done a score,
Of course.
big, swelling violin score. Who the fuck cares? We've done that a million times. Instead, you were like, but what if we take this another direction?
Right. Remember what we said about Oppenheimer. There were no percussive instruments in the entire score of that movie. Because in his mind, percussive instruments are instruments that evoke war. You know, marching soldiers and shit like that. So there is, again, intentionality behind every piece of this movie.
So another thing I want to talk about is the structure. So one thing I kind of wrote down in my notes was about a third of the way through the movie, we are just hearing everybody telling stories. We don't actually see what's going on with Odysseus right away. We hear people talking about Odysseus and their interpretation of him and their memory of him. And then we get a little bit of Odysseus trying to remember his own thoughts because he's lost his memory. And this is where they don't get into a whole lot of detail. Calypso is not a person. She is a goddess. She has basically been giving him that flower and trapping him here for 7 years.
Yeah, keeping him kind of docile and just going along with whatever it is that she wants.
They don't get deeply into that, but if you read the mythology, that's what's going on here. So he has basically been tricked into staying. His memory is gone, but now she realizes, okay, it's time for him to remember because he's always trying to get away. He might not even realize he's trying to get away, though. So we're getting all of these pieces, and the thing I wrote down was, this movie's kind of a mystery because Odysseus is a mystery. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows where he is.
Yep.
We're spending this entire time from the perspective of everybody else trying to figure out what happened and piece the puzzle together.
Betsy, I could not stop thinking about the structure of Oppenheimer as it relates to the Odyssey, because these two movies are told in kind of the same order. The only difference is that in Oppenheimer, the stuff in the quote-unquote present is in black and white, and the stuff in the past is in color. There's no difference here other than the ages of the character, which you can clearly see on Matt Damon's face and on John Leguizamo's face. I guess those are the only two people that we see in both times.
Those are the distinctly aged people. Everybody else is played by another actor. So like Robert Pattinson and Elliot Page, they are shown as little boys and then they're shown as men.
Right, 20 years prior to that, of course. But yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about that and how fucking brilliant it is to tell this story in particular in this way. And I feel like because it is such a complicated story, and I have no idea how it is told in the original text, in the original book, but I can't imagine that it's an easy read. I can't imagine it's really easy to follow everything. But in this movie, it's told out of order. You get the current present, what is about to happen with this big trial. You're then shown what is happening with Odysseus currently in this moment. And then we start hearing stories about, hey, this is the end of the War of Troy. Odysseus and his men decide to take a different route than the king because they have it in their minds that, oh, we're going to get home faster than the king. But we also have what is happening, 2/3 of the way through and a quarter of the way through, especially with him talking with these other goddesses, with Zendaya and Charlize Theron. But I will say, even though they were going back and forth so many different times, I don't think I ever got confused. In Oppenheimer, I got a little confused sometimes, mainly because of all of the different names. In this movie, I kind of didn't care about all the names.
We don't use a whole lot of names most of this movie, and even when we do, it's like, I don't really need to know your name. I know you're like his number one guy.
Yeah,
and
I need
you're
the
his
relationship.
Son.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, you're Agamemnon's brother, and you're Helen of Troy. And you know who everybody is.
Sure.
The rest of it is kind of inconsequential. But it is people telling stories. And the only reason we have the Odyssey is because Homer wrote it down. But people didn't just read it. People told these stories to each other at a time where it was all oral history.
Yeah, it's not like Homer is like going to the printing press and putting out his story to everybody.
No, he had limited copies, but it still got around the world. And they even make a comment about that at the end of the movie. Like, we need the singer to tell the story through song because it's for all of the people who are not learned enough to actually be able to read it.
Yeah, I like in this movie and in other fiction where they use the word song and sing to refer to storytellers. Like, sing me a song of Helen of Troy, sing me a song of Odysseus. That means tell me a story. It just happens to have a little bit of music behind it in order for it to be, more palatable. But it's just an old way of saying, tell me a story.
So again, it's just sort of a layered approach to say, look, we still have this text. We still have this story, and I'm just another storyteller, another singer of songs. This is my version of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And this is how I want to interpret it. You know what? I respect that. And the storytelling throughout the movie is really effective. Like every time we get a new story, it's like, here's the story of the Cyclops. Here's the story of Cersei the Witch. Here's the story of the giants. It's just these little moments where it's like, here's something they faced.
Yeah.
Here's how it went. And then we move on to the next thing.
It's every one of their trials and tribulations as they're trying to get home. The overall story is just them going home. It's just whatever they're encountering on the way. And interspersed in that is going back home to see what everybody had been up to in the present before we go back to the beach and Odysseus is trying to remember his Odyssey up to this point. So, yeah, to sum up what I thought about the presentation of the movie itself, I don't know if you could have done this better.
And it resists the urge to have a narrator. Like, we could have simply had a guy telling us the story of the Odyssey. It would have been really simple.
Very, very seldom did you have Matt Damon pipe up with any kind of voiceover when he's talking to Calypso on the beach. He says enough to set up what's about to happen, and then it happens in front of your face. But we haven't really talked that much about how these other goddesses are really presented to Matt Damon. And one of them, of course, is the Zendaya character, Athena, who just kind of shows up out of nowhere sometimes when he's having a difficult time. It's kind of like an angel and devil on your shoulder kind of a thing.
He's the only one who can see her.
Right.
But the big turn at the end of the movie is it's not Athena per se. He is haunted by the image of an innocent person who was beheaded at Troy.
Right. It's going back to Zeus's law. And I had never heard about this before. It is similar to the golden rule, of course. But in this case, Zeus's law is treat others as if they might be gods. Treat everybody, even a stranger, even a beggar, as if they might be a god.
Anyone could be a god in disguise, so you don't want to piss off the wrong person.
Exactly. And when he witnesses during the sacking of Troy, some young woman who is being accosted by these soldiers and be fucking beheaded, that might have been Athena for all you know.
They also ransacked the temple, so there is a statue of Athena, and they chop her head off too.
Yeah, a little bit on the nose there, guys.
But yeah, so he's haunted by this visage of this person the rest of his life. And it's the guilt that he is bringing with him. So he is associating her with Athena, but really it's his own internal voice saying, dude, you screwed up. The gods know you screwed up.
Yeah.
You got to make amends. You got to do the right thing or this is never going to get better.
Which is why his decision at the end of the movie to give up the throne to his son makes more sense.
Also because he got a warning from Agamemnon being like, don't go parading in there and expecting a hero's welcome because I showed up and they killed me.
The knives are going to be fucking out.
They killed me. People held a grudge. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the people who are in this movie because you've mentioned him by name a number of times. Matt Damon leading the charge. He is Odysseus. What did you think of his performance?
You know, I would say it's really hard not to ham it up when you are the main star of the fucking Odyssey. But I think he does it in a way that makes him not the center of attention. Does that make sense? He's not really acting big. He's not acting small. He's not having big emotional moments at any time, even when he is confronted with all of his other dead soldiers in Hades. He's like, I mean, but I did this, but I did that. Okay, you tell me what's going to happen here and I'll go and do that.
He's acting like a leader. He is trying his best, but he is also setting an expectation. Like he tells his wife, I don't think I'm coming back and you should definitely get remarried. Right. And she doesn't want to hear it. And he says, no, this is the way it's going to be. When he goes and, you know, they're losing this war, it's his idea to hide in the horse. And when he sees what that does, he realizes he's going to maybe have to accept responsibility for his actions. Yeah, and he keeps trying throughout the movie. Like, I have led my men. Every failure is my failure.
Yeah, and he doesn't try to ever atone for anything because nobody really demands it of him.
I mean, there's a few times they say, you can't just leave the bodies here. We have to honor the dead. And he's like, I'm trying to keep your ass alive.
Right.
We will worry about the dead later.
Yeah.
He even says at one point, I will defy the gods if that is what it takes to get my men back home.
Yeah, and there are other occasions when they're back on the boat and his men are starting to question all of his decisions. And I mean, even to the point where they're making other suggestions saying, hey, maybe we should do this instead. But no, he overrides it saying, no, I know what I'm doing here. Let's do this.
Or on the beach where he says, is this a mutiny? And they say, only if you want it to be.
Right.
We have a better suggestion. We're tired of you leading us into a problem. Let us lead ourselves into a problem if there's going to be one.
We're going to go and find food. You can be on this beach and do whatever it is that you need to do. And he's a team player. He goes and takes his bow and starts hunting on the beach. And then he finds, oops, I killed a guy.
And I should maybe go check on my men. Seems bad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Matt Damon does a really great job here. If he were to get nominated for Best Lead Actor, I think I would accept that. But it's one of those kind of nominations by default because you were a part of this huge, huge movie and you did a really good job in that movie. You get it by default. Does it mean that you're going to win it? Probably not.
He's doing it with a lot of nuance, which I enjoy. He's playing a big range where he is going everywhere from very humble, like I am a beggar and that is all you need to know I am right now, to a fucking kick-ass dude at the end of the movie where he's like, I'm gonna fuck you all up now.
But also, he is subjecting himself to the siren's song, tying himself to the fucking mast of the ship and taking the full force of their song.
Because he wants to hear it. And he wants to be able to tell other people.
He wants to be the only person who have ever survived. Everybody else, you get fucking wax in your ears and you can't hear it. Let's get the fuck past this. But I'm strong enough. I'm going to do it. And the way he describes that, Betsy, may be some of the best text that is being said in the movie. He says, it is like a delicious itch that you go to scratch, but you find that it is below your skin and you will never be able to scratch and satisfy that. Oh my God, it's so great.
Well, moving on from him, because there's so many people in this movie, let's talk about Anne Hathaway.
Ooh,
she is in so many movies this year.
It's true.
But I think this one is going to end up being one of her better performances. There's people who are saying this is her best on-screen performance since she won an Academy Award.
Yeah, and the way they frame her character, not just her, but the way they make her character be the end-all and be-all of all of these men coming to call in these parties that they have to throw. They call them suitors in the old sense of the word, I'm sure. But everybody's there because they're trying to woo her and get in her favor, I guess. And the fact that Odysseus himself is going through all of this, presumably to get back to her, to get back to his home, to get back to his son.
Because it's also about true love, if you will, because he only wants to get back to her. She only wants him. She's not interested in getting remarried, but she's keeping it open as long as possible. She's putting it off. She's literally like, I will not get married until I have finished this weaving that I'm doing, but secretly she's undoing all the work to make sure she doesn't have to get married.
I didn't even really get that. But really, Betsy, the moment we always talk about if you get nominated for an Oscar for acting, they always have your reel.
What's the clip?
Yeah. What's the clip that they show at the Oscars? Her clip is going to be her talking with Tom Holland at the end of the movie where she says, you know, of course it has to be a man. It can't be a woman on the fucking throne. I have all this experience and fuck you. I want Odysseus. That moment right there gave me chills, Betsy. Holy shit.
She's a tough lady, and she has been putting up with a lot of shit for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And she does not get the respect that she deserves. But she, as I said, is also not accepting of another possibility. Like, she holds out hope that her husband is still alive, even though everybody who was in the war has come back. Nobody has heard any stories. Nobody has any word of this guy because he's hidden away on an island with a goddess for the last 7 years. Of course, nobody knows where the fuck he is. He doesn't know where the fuck he is.
Yeah.
But she keeps holding out hope, and she will not change anything just in case he comes back.
Yeah, and even when the idea of having this trial, this tournament, when that enters her mind, Do you think at this moment that she is accepting that he will never come back because she talked to the quote unquote beggar outside?
I think she is more open to the idea that he is not going to come back, but also she needs to put an end to the situation, whatever that end is, which is
Right.
why she makes this big charade saying, everybody come on in, I'm locking the doors. She has already expressed also in that scene that you mentioned that her ideal would be to burn them fuckers to the ground.
Right.
Instead, she says, we're going to have a little challenge. String this bow, shoot the arrow through the axes. And whoever can do that, I promise I will marry them, knowing full well
Yeah.
nobody in that room can do it.
Setting up an impossible challenge, and if somebody happens to be able to do it, then hey, I guess you called my bluff.
Because we are almost at the point that her son is of age and he could just take over. At this point, maybe she is thinking, okay, if I can get rid of all these guys, my son can take over. And I will accept that as the new normal.
But she knows that the fucking knives are out, and all of these guys are already trying to kill him.
Which is why she locks them all in a room, and we're going to resolve this one way or another.
One way or another, it is going to end tonight. Which, I mean, as long as we're here, Betsy, what did you think about that final battle there?
Oh, I loved that. That was
It's
so
really
great.
good. Now, the one thing that I have a problem with when it comes to Christopher Nolan movies and any movie that is shot on film, action scenes are really hard to follow in a theater that is being pumped in there at 24 frames per second. It's really hard to follow action scenes like that, and it sucks. Of course, we don't have an IMAX theater where we live.
We have to watch it amongst the poor people on the normal theater screen.
So seeing that scene, I wish I could see more, which just makes me really interested to watch it at home in a digital format, let's say. But I agree. I was rooting for a good final battle with all these fucking assholes. I mean, we can talk about Robert Pattinson now if you want.
Yeah, he's kind of a shithead in this movie, too.
Yeah, but you know what? I felt the past kind of clinging to him because we get this flashback to when it's a lottery system where he says that, and maybe you might have to explain this to me. He goes up there and is volunteering to go, but then somebody else takes his place. Please explain what happened here.
Basically, it's him and I think his brother, or like another guy who is like a shepherd's boy. They say something about a shepherd's boy. Maybe
Right.
what it is he's the rich guy and this kid works on his land. And when he puts his name in, he gets picked and he doesn't want to go. And this was pretty common back in the day. If you had to go to war, you could buy your way out of it if you sent somebody else in your place.
Okay,
So
that makes more
that's,
sense.
I think, what is happening here.
Which is why he says, I'm buying your shame back or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, he basically was like, well, I volunteered. He told everybody, I volunteered. Fuck no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He showed up knowing he might get picked. He did get picked, but he
brought
had a backup plan.
He brought along the son of the farmer guy who was
Someone
there as well.
who could not say no. Someone
Right.
who could not refuse this situation.
Okay, that makes more sense
Which
now.
is why Elliot Page went to war, but Odysseus kept him close to try to protect him because he was just a little boy and he's like, okay,
He's just a little guy.
I see this situation here. I'm going to do my best to keep this guy alive for you because that guy's too much of a coward to go to war.
Which is also why Elliot Page's character getting killed in the way he was is such a black mark on his reputation. You are supposed to protect that soldier at all costs, at least in your own mind, and you sent them out there to fucking die.
You lied to their face
Yeah.
to save your own ass, basically. And he says, I'm
Well,
trying to justify it.
To save the entirety of the war effort.
Yeah,
If this doesn't work, they're fucked.
I'm trying to win this war and I needed you to believe it. I didn't want them to like torture it out of you to simply say they're inside.
Right.
Because if you believe everybody went home, you'll sell that. But if you know we're inside, you might not be able to, and I won't be able to protect you, and I won't be able to protect ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, when he goes to Hades and Elliot Page is like drinking blood saying, fuck you, you liar. Like,
Right.
you screwed this all up and this is how.
That was a great moment, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying Elliot Page should be on the short list for Best Supporting Actor.
Maybe.
He's not in the movie a whole lot, but when he is on screen, it's extremely effective.
Yeah.
A couple other people who have been in this conversation, one of them is John Leguizamo. So John Leguizamo is playing younger, and he is playing the old blind man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's another one of those actors who's never been nominated for an Academy Award. And his whole thing is he is just protecting this dog and waiting for Odysseus to come back. He says, that dog is almost 20 years old. I've never seen a dog live this long. I think he is waiting for his master. And he spends half the movie just protecting a dog.
Yeah, I have a harder time saying John Leguizamo deserves an Oscar nomination for this. I think he's really good in it, but I didn't really see anything special out of him, if that makes sense.
He was kind of unrecognizable when he first showed up. I was like,
I knew he was in it.
I knew he was in it. It's not until he starts speaking that he sounds like John Leguizamo.
Of course. But I really want to have a conversation about Tom Holland. Now, of course, you and I have only ever watched Tom Holland be Spider-Man. He's never been anything else to us anyway. We haven't seen him in anything else up to today. What did you think about his performance here? Because I think he had a really high bar to hit.
There's been a lot of people saying, oh, he's the weak link. He is not doing what everybody else is doing. But I feel like it's kind of by design. He's supposed to be a boy.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be kind of like wide-eyed and I don't know what's going on and I don't know how to fight and I don't know how to be a leader. But I know he has it in him. I have seen moments even in Spider-Man where he gives really good acting performances. A movie that you and I haven't watched, it's that Naomi Watts movie, The Impossible, where her and her family survive a tsunami.
Okay.
He is one of her sons, and he is a little boy in that movie. By all accounts, he's extraordinary. It's like an amazing child performance.
Okay. The thing I was thinking about when it comes to watching him in this movie, I was reminded of the kid who played Tommen in Game of Thrones, where he is given this impossible task of being king of these 7 kingdoms or whatever the fuck. And he is doing his best. He hasn't been given all of the different tools. He hasn't been given all the training yet, but he is doing his best.
He has not been set up for success, as they say.
Exactly. That's kind of how I'm approaching his character and his performance here, because I think he nails what they're asking him to do. He isn't going to give the big, flowery language performance of somebody who's been trained in Shakespearean whatever the fuck. No, he's a fucking kid, and he hasn't had to do any of these big boy things yet. But he's trying. He's trying his fucking best.
And he does a lot of emoting, like when he is sitting there at the dinner where John Bernthal basically recognizes, I know exactly who you are.
Right.
You have so much of your father in you. I know you're trying to pretend to be somebody else and you're being incognito, but you can't hide it from me. And he hears these stories about his own father and it brings him to tears.
Yeah.
He's suddenly finding out more about his own father than he's ever been told in his life.
From somebody who was actually there with him.
The real shit. Like when John Bernthal recounts the story of the sacking of Troy, like from within the horse, he's like, you've never heard it from the inside of the horse.
Right. All of the people who are singing the songs of the story of the sacking of Troy and the Trojan horse and shit like that, they leave out the fact that there were dead people in the bottom of the horse, and they leave out the fact that everybody had to piss and shit themselves in order to just, continue living in there. And I'm sure it was goddamn horrible.
They were drowning in the surf for 2 days.
Yeah.
While they're waiting for someone to discover them.
But because those stories are the most authentic thing that he's ever heard about his own father, yeah, I would probably be brought to tears myself if I heard stories of my own father leading other men into fucking battle.
But he does have some growth in the movie. By the end, he runs straight upstairs where Logan Marshall Green is like digging a hole in the floor and throwing weapons down, and he's gonna stop him. He doesn't hesitate. He gets in there and he keeps throwing shit at him, and he
remembers his training.
He remembers his training, and he kills him. He wins. So it's kind of the closest thing you get in the movie to him becoming a man.
Yeah.
But there isn't this big, like, triumphant moment where we know he is ready. It's just a small advancement towards that end goal. And things like, him coming back in one piece and telling his mother, hey, would you be possibly open to some other arrangement? Maybe now would be a good time.
Right.
Like he's confronting her in a more subtle way than just saying, you don't think I could be the king? Pout.
Yeah. He's approaching this like a practical adult. Like, hey, this is the shit that is going to be happening here. The knives are out for me. They're coming after me. How about we do this instead as a strategic thing? But, I mean, as far as the other folks in the movie, there's a ton of them. You mentioned John Barenthal and, Mia Goth is in the movie, and there's a bunch of other people we couldn't mention, but nobody's really standing out to me as far as somebody who we really need to mention and call out. I really like the performances of his men on the boat. Like his second in command, I really liked him in the movie, and he seems really familiar to me, but I don't really know what I know him from.
Well, I was looking into this, and I think the only thing you'd know him from is Don't Look Up. He's in that somewhere, but I've only watched it once. I know you've watched it a couple of times.
I've seen it like 2 or 3 times.
He's also in Tenet, which is like the one recent Nolan movie we haven't watched. One day we're going to get to it.
We will.
He also starred in the movie Yesterday, that movie about the guy who wakes up in an alternate universe where only he remembers the Beatles songs.
Right.
So he's a guy who has had a decent career in the last few years. He's not a star by any means. But yeah, he's really good in this too, as far as like the minor characters go, where he is telling Odysseus the things he needs to hear. Like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? You want to hear the sirens? Are you crazy?
Right.
And he's looking at him, like the acting he's doing where he is just watching Odysseus. And I love how they dampen the sound, like he is what we are hearing. So he puts wax in his ears, and the second he does that, we also don't hear the full sound of the sirens.
Great moment.
And we're just looking at him watch Odysseus as Odysseus screams silently. And it's him who tells him, hey, you should stay down here while we go search for food. Whatever the fuck happens, you can't be blamed for it.
Right. I mean, do you want to talk about that scene in particular when they go up to see Cersei? Speaking of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I knew something bad was going to happen. She's just too, nice to them. And the way they're like chowing down on this food, they're gorging themselves. And she just starts like petting them going, oh, men are so hungry, so hungry. Always can't ever get enough, can you? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this lady's a witch if I'm remembering my mythology correctly.
Meanwhile, she is literally trying to manipulate their faces as they're gorging on this food, manipulating them and changing them into fucking pigs. And I had no idea that this scene was going to be in the movie, just like I didn't know there was going to be a goddamn tentacle monster in the movie. But the scene at the end of this whole sequence here with Cersei, where Odysseus comes up there, is greeting her, and is very apprehensive about what is going on here.
Because he just shot a deer, and when he went to find the body, it was a man.
Exactly.
So he knows something's going on.
Exactly. And he witnessed other animals just kind of hanging out as he was going up to the cottage here.
Yeah, a lion and a tiger and a panther and a leopard, and they're all just chilling, and they're not interested in killing you.
Yeah, that's really weird. But it's really just the scene when she is changing them back into people. I read in the trivia that this scene is where Christopher Nolan is using the camera very intentionally as he is panning from right to left and left to right. The pigs that are on screen there are animatronics. So all they're doing here is pulling the animatronics away and replacing it with the naked actors. So there's no like CG transformation happening here. It's all just a bait and switch. It's so well done though.
That's a cool transition, but when they are transitioning from men to pigs, it's really disturbing because she's like shoving her whole arm like in their mouths and pulling their snouts out. And you can tell this is all very practical. They have some kind of animatronic, some kind of makeup, some prosthetic, something that is happening here to transition them from men to pigs.
Yeah, because you could tell that she is really manipulating these models, I guess, as if it was like clay or something like that, where she is literally molding them into what she wants. And I don't really know this actress. Everybody else in the movie, for the most part, that is important, I know their name, but I have no idea who this chick is.
So this is Samantha Morton. We have had her in one movie that we covered because she is one of the women in Minority Report. So those
I don't even remember watching that movie.
Those women who like see the future and go,
Yeah.
murder.
Oh.
She's the one that he like, he rescues her.
She's a precog.
A precog, yes.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the word.
She's the one who runs around with Tom Cruise for half the movie.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yeah, same actress. And she's one of those really respected actresses who has been nominated for an Academy Award before, but she's just sort of quietly working her way through Hollywood and sometimes shows up in a Christopher Nolan movie.
I mean, take it if you can get it, man.
But something else that you just mentioned that we should address is the fact that Christopher Nolan, once again, is doing so much of this practically.
Yeah.
The Cyclops, they had a big giant puppet in a cave that they had for point of reference, and then they just replaced it in post with different like animatronics or
they painted over the
generated.
top. Yeah, they paint over the top with it with the real CG to make it look better for the audience.
And it did seem like sometimes it was a real man in full body makeup.
Because it kind of was. I'm sure they had some kind of motion capture for a big lumbering fucking giant, which, hey, Betsy, you gotta say it. We said in the last episode of this Decade series, God, there's been no connections here. None of the actors in these movies have been in multiple movies. Guess what? The guy who was playing the Cyclops, he is credited as Cyclops, was in Lady in the Water. He's the guy just sitting in the chair in Lady in the Water.
Every time we've had the Decades series, in every single year, there's some actor who appears as a surprise to us in multiple movies. And we didn't have it. And we made it all the way to the end of the series. I was like, there's no crossover. There's no surprise thread. Here it is at long last. But yeah, that guy was in it. What else was there practically? All the people in Hades crawling up from the ground, emerging from the rocks.
The shades, they call them. All those people were just covered up in whatever this black sand is. When you see them emerge, that's all real. All they were doing there was breathing through what is equivalent to a snorkel. They're completely covered up, and when they get the cue in their ear, because I guess there was some kind of radio device that they were listening to, when they get their cue, they all come up at the same time, and it was so well done.
They also clearly have a lot of long boats that everybody is actually out on the water on.
Yep.
They've built these big, beautiful sets. It is so much practical work. You even said they filmed this in Greece. The cave that they filmed the Cyclops in, that's a real cave. It has been in existence for thousands of years, and man has actually used it for thousands of years. There's evidence of like Bronze Age men like in these caves.
And in that same vein, Betsy, we just have to reinforce Christopher Nolan himself is a fucking nerd, and nobody but a fucking nerd would make these kinds of movies. And not to say that being a fucking nerd is a bad thing. We ourselves are self-admitted fucking nerds. We have said that many, many times on this particular podcast.
How many times have I mentioned that I translated things from ancient Greek in this episode alone? That's pretty nerdy, guys.
You're not going to get that on a bunch of other movie podcasts. I guarantee you that. But yeah, I don't think we need to really mention anybody else in the movie in particular.
The long and short of it is, everybody's really good in this. I was not upset by the performance that anybody was given. Nobody felt out of place to me. Everybody knew what their role was. I bought it. I liked it. So I think we can start wrapping this up, Trent, but what other moments, little details that we have not talked about that you still wanted to mention?
Well, speaking of having things really practically done and it looking just so impressive, the image I think that is going to be burned in my brain for a lot longer than a lot of other Christopher Nolan movies is when we go inside of the horse with all of the men piled on top of each other, how fucking sweaty they all are, how fucking dirty they all are, how close together everybody is. They're literally on people's shoulders. I'm going to remember that particular scene forever.
I was really impressed with that sequence. And then when they get the horse in there, they're being jostled around, rolling them on logs. They get them in, they start stabbing down, and one guy gets stabbed and they have to keep him quiet. And Matt Damon has the forethought to grab the blade and wipe the blood off as it's being pulled out. Because that's what they're looking for. They're trying to make sure there's nobody inside this thing. It's such a tiny detail, but I appreciated that.
There's a line here that I wanted to mention. It's when Odysseus finally gets home and he's walking kind of along the coast with Tom Holland. And Tom Holland is really excited. Like, really? You were with Odysseus? He doesn't say, hey, that's my father or anything like that. But he's super excited to hear more stories of somebody who was with Odysseus. And he says something to the effect of, oh yeah, you have the eyes of Athena or something like that. And he says, don't look for gods in men. They'll just disappoint you. Which is what I always say. The line I always have said on this podcast is, just don't meet your heroes. They're just going to disappoint you. Like Odysseus in this moment amongst all these people, he's kind of denying these gods' existence. He's kind of denying the divinity of these gods because look what happened as a result.
Yeah, I guess I pissed him off, and look how they've treated me for 20 years. So I have some bitterness that I'm kind of working through.
Right. Another thing that happens right after this moment, Odysseus is inside the palace and he's talking with Anne Hathaway. He's sitting on the stoop. And he was responding to, I think, what she is asking him about, have you heard the songs of Odysseus and his triumphs in battle and shit like that? He says something to the effect of, the songs make me cry, not only for the lives lost, but the time lost. I think what he is really saying here is the 20 years that I've been away is more valuable to me than all of the lives lost in these battles that I fought in. He probably would have even preferred that he died rather than him living and missing out on 20 years away from his family.
That's a long time to just wander around and try to get home and be unsuccessful in doing so.
Yeah. And the relative lifespan of most of the people who lived in ancient Greece, pretty damn short, and 20 years is a big chunk of that.
Okay, so this is one of the other things that you made me just remember.
Okay.
People are like, so mad. Oh, Anne Hathaway is playing Tom Holland's mom, and she's only 13 years older. And people are pointing out, frankly, that's the most historically accurate thing in the movie.
Yep, I'm nodding my head. But really, Betsy, in this entire conversation, I've barely been glancing at my notes here. And of course, we always say that it really makes a good movie if I don't have to look at my notes. And I take a lot of notes, especially when we go to the theater. But one last thing here. I think I knew this outside of the movie, but apparently Homer's Odyssey is where the word mentor comes from, along with Odyssey. The guy who was teaching Tom Holland to fight, his name is Mentor. He says it. His name was Mentor.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that either, frankly. If I did, it was lost in my memory bank from the last 20 years.
Yeah, but anyway, that's really all I had. What did you have, Betsy?
I mean, the sight of John Leguizamo chucking unacceptable puppies off a cliff at the beginning of the movie is going to stay with me.
I think I've actually seen that outside of the movie once. It was in relation to some other fucking internet joke, but yeah, that was a little bit intense.
He's just looking him over going, no, not this one, not this one. It's like, no, not the puppies, not the puppies. And then the other one lives to be extremely old, and he says, I think he's waiting for his master, and that sad old dog is lying in a pile of manure waiting for Odysseus, and when he comes up, he musters a little wag of his tail before he dies, and I almost started crying. I couldn't help myself because like, that sad old dog.
It's like that Futurama episode that you cannot ever forget. You're wearing a Futurama t-shirt right now.
Why did you have to bring that up, Trent? Why did you have to bring up that episode of Futurama?
It's the same kind of feeling, though.
It's devastating. Dogs will live forever waiting for their master, and they will just sit there and die if that's what it takes. So damn you, Christopher Nolan, for throwing that into the story. But I really didn't have anything else, Trent. Obviously, we're going to be talking about this again when Oscars come rolling around. Yeah. Everybody right now is just assuming that this is going to be the front runner with a ton of months and a ton of movies still yet to come. Maybe Nolan will manage to do it twice in a row. Maybe it'll just be another one of the many movies he's been nominated for.
I do not envy any other movie going up against this one.
No, but it's certainly going to get up for the casting nomination because that's a new award. Yep. And there's so many people in this movie that I would be shocked if it didn't get that nomination in the very least.
I agree. And just a reminder, as we're getting towards the end of the year, reminder of something that we announced in our 5-year special. we're not going to go out of our way to cover Oscar-nominated movies or cover movies that we think are going to be nominated for Best Picture. That is not something we're going to be doing as of this coming season. So if we watch a movie, it's because we want to watch it and not just because we think it's going to be nominated for Best Picture.
And we're still going to have our Oscar special, so
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
be hearing us talk about the Odyssey, but you're also going to get to hear us talk about the movies we didn't do full episodes on.
Yeah, just because I say that we're not going to be covering them doesn't mean we're not going to see them.
Oh, we're going to see
We have been
'em.
watching Best Picture nominees now going on 10 years or more.
But it just gets too hard living in South Dakota, guaranteeing when the movies are going to become available. Some of them have been really down to the wire in
Yeah.
different years. One year, the first year I think it was that we had this podcast, we literally had to delay an episode because the movie wasn't available.
It was the year after. It was Women Talking.
Yeah.
It was back when we were doing 2 episodes a week, and it was the final episode before Oscar Sunday. It was going to come out on a Wednesday. We weren't able to watch the movie until Wednesday. I had to quick edit the podcast and put it out the next morning on Thursday. And that was the only time I've ever been late putting up an episode.
So we're just saving ourselves that extra grief by simply not worrying about doing the episodes.
Yeah, I don't want to force these in there just because we've always done it. And like you said, it's becoming easier for us to get the movies, but scheduling and, not everybody wants to listen to Oscar-nominated movie talk. We're just foregoing it this year. So, FYI.
So as we said, this may not be the last you'll hear of us talking about the Odyssey, but it is going to be the end of this episode. However, we would like to hear what you thought of the Odyssey. You can email us your thoughts, neverseenitpod@gmail.com. You could also reach out to us on any of our social media. If you're on Facebook or Instagram or Blue Sky, any of those platforms, go ahead and send us a message. Our Twitter, once again, got taken over. We have not been able to recover it. If you want to message me directly or Trent directly, you sure can. But we don't have a page for the podcast where you can send your thoughts.
But you know where else people can actually leave comments, Betsy? And this has only happened a few times. You can go to your Spotify app and leave a comment on the episode within Spotify. In fact, we got a comment about Lady in the Water from one Denny Clark. They say, I'm the oddball because I really liked this movie when it came out. So different and odd, I guess was the appeal. Oh boy, okay. So as I said in the last episode, you're allowed to like bad movies. And a whole lot of people get caught up in hey, it's the new Shyamalan movie and everybody wants to go to it. I get that. I have seen plenty of bad movies because it's just the next one. But I am happy anytime somebody sees a movie that they enjoy, no matter the quality. I love plenty of bad movies.
I just want them to elaborate. I want to know what the appeal is to you, why this one rises above the rest. Because most people, the consensus is Lady in the Water is not a good movie. Now, I will say, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 50-50. Like the percentage for the audience is like 49%. So I know there are people out there who like this movie. We have heard from 2 of them so far.
Yeah. And I hope we hear more of you folks. Again, send all your thoughts. I don't care where it comes from. If you have an idle thought listening to the episode, pop off an email. Go to our social media. We need you to keep this podcast going.
And we don't say this often enough, but if you're feeling really fancy, you can go wherever you're listening to your podcast and rate us 5 stars. Write us a nice review. Tell everybody how much you love listening to us and how great we are, because we love having our egos boosted.
Yeah, we continue to live through your praise.
But until you do all of those things, dear listeners, this is going to be the end of our 5th annual Decade series. Trent, we've made it all the way to 2026. We made it through all the decades. I thought this was fun this year.
This was a different one, and every single year that we do this, it is very unique to those years. And I think this year of all years, we picked some that I was a little apprehensive about. Anytime we do a 60s movie, I'm a little bit nervous, but Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is maybe going to be one of my big surprises by the end of the year, just because of how much I enjoyed it. I thought I was going to hate Bad News Bears, but I ended up liking it. The Color of Money is a great follow-up to something that we did on Patreon. Same thing about 10 Cloverfield Lane, another follow-up to a Patreon episode. By the way, go to patreon.com/neverseenapod to listen to those aforementioned episodes. And we also watched Lady in the Water. Moving on. I got nothing more to say about that.
So if you haven't listened to any of those, go back and listen to them. So that brings us to the end of the Decade series, but we still have 2 weeks to go in August. This was kind of a weird layout. The series is always a little bit odd because it's an odd number of episodes, and it never matches the number of weeks in the 2 months that it takes us to do these episodes. So for the last 2 weeks in August, we're just going to be doing a couple of randos because we have so many movies that we just have never seen. And sometimes they don't work in a series anywhere else.
Yeah. So, guys, I think you're going to want to come back to us next week for our next episode because we're going to be doing yet another follow-up to a previous episode, this time from Never Seen It. We're covering Rocky 2.
You can go back to one of our earlier episodes of the podcast and listen to our real-time reaction to the first time we both watched Rocky, and then come back next week because we're going to finally see Rocky 2. Until then, we thank you for listening. My name is Betsy.
And my name's Trent.
And we will see you next week.